in.
And I just realized I gave away the password.
It's okay, Commissioner. This one's for the open meeting. Okay, I'll go ahead and take a roll call before we begin. Mayor Mendez?
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Cowan? This one's for the open meeting.
Present.
Commissioner Gowan?
Present.
Commissioner Galansky Pisania?
Here.
Commissioner Tetro?
Here.
Commissioner Munguia? Okay, he's absent. Commissioner Neese?
I'm here.
Okay, we do have a quorum present. I will go ahead and read the notice. Notice now at 5:02 p.m. Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, teleconference open meeting pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5, Section 551.041 of the Texas Government Code. The Texas Open Meetings Act notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville will conduct a regular meeting on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. via WebEx teleconference meeting by logging on to the WebEx. The meeting number is 960-606-883. This notice and meeting agenda are posted online at the City of Brownsville website. The members of the public meeting wishing to participate in the meeting hosted through WebEx teleconference may also join in. We will go ahead and begin with the call to order. Everyone is present with the exception of Commissioner Munguia. If we can now please have the invocation by Pastor Gutierrez. Would you please take the mute off, sir?
Yes. I would like to start with a Bible verse. It's Psalms 32:8. It says, I will instruct you and teach you in the ways you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you, Lord. First of all, we give you all the honor and all the glory. We thank you for allowing us to be here today. I ask for each and every board member that is here today. I ask you for our mayor, Lord, and each and every city commissioner that is here, Lord. Everyone that is taking participation on this part. I ask for you, we put everything in your hands. Everything that's going to be discussed, Lord, we put it in your hands, and what better hands than yours. We also ask, Lord, for Pastor Brad, Lord. He's over there in the hospital right now. We ask for you to bring healing and restoration, Lord, to his body. We thank you once again, Lord, for being good to us and allowing us to wake up this morning and allowing us to finish strong, Lord, and putting everything in your hands before we continue to move forward. We seek your face. We ask you this in your mighty name. Amen.
We will now move on to the public comment period. No one signed up for the public comment period, so we'll go on to the next agenda item, which are the work sessions. A work session letter A, discussion regarding the City of Brownsville response to the urgent public necessity concerning COVID-19, otherwise known as coronavirus, included but not limited to continuity plan update, city staffing, facilities and services, including actions and continuity of such operations. Letter B, financial update, emergency procurement, and letter C, drive-through collections testing site update.
Had 1,712 tests administered. We have a running total of 1,900 requests that did not meet the criteria. To date, our running insured to uninsured percentage has been 52 insured, 48 uninsured. I want to add that most recently, we've been trending closer to the uninsured than the insured. We've probably had about a 51 to 49 balance. So we've been trending in the point of getting more uninsured coming to the drive-through. To date, we've had 102 positive reported out of our drive-through to the county, and 1,581 negative results. At this time, as of today, we have 32 results pending. To date, and keep in mind that at this time we continue to be an all sputum. An all swab, no sputum drive-through. Next slide.
Good evening. The slide that we're looking at right now is the confirmed cases and estimated recovered in Brownsville. This has been updated to reflect up to 5/4, if you notice there. And as you can see that we are having that recovery phase, and it's matching in line with how many that our cases are increasing. So that's actually a good sign. That means that we're having good, solid recovery, and we don't have any deaths currently right now. The next slide. All right, and this is that traditional epi curve that you hear a lot of people talk about. And this is how many cases we're acquiring, or new cases that are coming, being tested and being determined to be positives on a daily basis. And as you can see, we did have that peak right on April 11th, but we've seen a little bit of a decline, and you see a couple of little blips where it does go up. And that's what that is. That helps us determine whether or not our mitigation strategies and the measures that we're taking with social distancing, washing hands, and disinfecting those frequently touched objects, if that's reaching our public, and if they're incorporating those, whether it's through our social media, our websites, or even some of our additional meetings that we have with community members out in the field. And then the next slide. And this right here is where we're looking at the different sources of infection. And what we're seeing right now is we've had 30 that were community-based and transmission, which means that we don't have a known source of that infection. So we know it's not that they traveled out of country or into a hot zone. We don't know. We can't link them to a previous case where they've had some form of interaction. And we want that number to be low. As you can see, the highest is the link to a previous case, and that's at 85. And that means we can tell exactly where that infection is coming from. Whether it was they came in contact with a coworker, a family member, or maybe a church member or a friend. And that's a real positive thing. That means that we, right there, we have the option to contain that outbreak right there. And then, of course, we also have the travel, which would be if you're going into not only a foreign country, but now since we do have hotspots areas throughout the United States, like if they traveled to New York City a couple of weeks ago, that would go under a travel because we know they went into a hot zone. And we can go to the next slide. And this time we decided that we would break it down also on what kind of age dispersal we're seeing by the different age categories. And we've also color-coded those to show those that are known to have mild symptoms and then to moderate. And then you have this little moderate to severe, which is that little 60 to 69, and then the severe cases. And this is important to note that we're seeing the majority of our cases are falling under those mild. And one thing that's important with those is that those are often, not only are they mild, but you're also seeing those with your asymptomatic transmission. And those individuals need to be very careful with how they're interacting with vulnerable populations and how they're interacting with those. And vulnerable populations will be those in the age group with the severe, where you see them in the red. So how are they interacting with those? And also those that have a chronic illness like diabetes, chronic lung disease, kidney disease, hypertension, or obesity. So we want to definitely make sure that we're getting the message out to the young folks that although they are experiencing mild symptoms or asymptomatic transmission, that they're still practicing those social distancing, frequent hand washing, and disinfecting of frequently touched objects. And that is to protect those that are in the severe category with those chronic illnesses. So we want to make sure that everybody's being protected across this and that our messaging is kind of geared towards those individual groups. Next slide, please. All right, and this is Dr. Rodriguez.
So the other aspect of our operations include the mitigation that we're doing. One of the activities that we've really been working hard is our COVID-19 boots on the ground operations. We've had this in place for 16 days now. It is a citywide operation. Currently, we are concentrating in the southmost neighborhood. That's about 40,000 individuals of our citizens there. We break each into an event. We've had 15 door-to-door events and 2 food bank events. It's important to see that at every door-to-door event, we've had about anywhere from 250 to 900 bags given, and it depends on how large the neighborhood is. The 2 food bank events, one was held at Southmost Library, the other was held at the event center, and those events yielded about 1,300 and 1,500 grocery bags that were given that day. To date, our house-to-house event, we've reached 9,774 households. That's about 18% of the total households in Brownsville, which makes up about 53,000 households in Brownsville. Each one of our operations is about 5 to 8 staff participating at any given time. And keep in mind that we're also promoting the census, the 2020 census, while we do the boots on the ground. Next slide. In ending, I want to say that some of the recent actions that we've had is we've also had an interlocal agreement with Harlingen. So far, we've had 3 patients tested come through. All 3 were insured, and we have 3 pending samples at this time to bring us a total of 4 individuals tested, and operations began on Friday. We're also working on a medical update, virtual update, to host a multi-part series. The first event is scheduled for Friday, May 8th at 10 a.m. And then we've added another action to our department, which is a quarantine follow-up for local positive cases, in addition to the county role. And we feel that this is a security net. Over the weekend, we did entertain some calls where we had some individuals that were suspected to have been positive. And our role here is to support the county's role. And we're following up with a phone call and a visit by one of our inspectors to ensure that people are quarantining in place. And lastly, our next steps are to continue working with our infectious disease physician and the University of Texas so that we can work on a community strategy. As more stores begin to open up, we expect to see a shift from connected to a previous inspection being the source of infection to community-based. Lastly, I want to thank you for your support and dedication. I want to end with a photo of our staff who have been out every day of the week at 6 in the morning conducting the door-to-door campaigns. Any questions?
Dr. Rodriguez, on the Harlingen testing, we see that there's a low number so far. I'm going to attribute that to their own awareness program. I don't know what sort of campaign they're running in Harlingen to alert their constituents or their citizens that there's testing available here. But I did have a question on the chart that showed the moderate severe categories of the COVID patients. Are you basing that on age? Because that's the way it looks to me, like you're basing that on age. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean,
can you go back to the rainbow color slide?
Right. Okay. So are you just doing this by age group though? Because you could be 40 years old and have a severe case. So I don't know that that's necessarily transferring. It looks like you're doing it by age.
So this is based off of what the CDC and the WHO are putting out for the age populations with the most severe outcomes. There's additional things, like you did mention, that if somebody is obese, and that would be a different type of vulnerable population, and those fall under moderate, because if they are obese or if they do have that one of the chronic conditions like the lung infections or kidney hypertension or diabetes, that's why they move more into the moderate, because they can still have a severe outcome, but their percentage of a severe outcome is far less than someone who is 80 or older.
Okay, so then I think it would be better to maybe label this risk rather than actual the category of the cases themselves, because the risk, I think you're categorizing this more by risk based on age group than outcome of the actual case itself. Is that more accurate?
Well, it's just based on the actual outcome of your likelihood of experiencing one of those outcomes based on your age.
Yeah, so it's risk.
So So
okay.
we
I just don't want people to be misled by this group, by this graph, and think that just because you're less than 20 that everything's going to be mild. I just want to make sure that people understand that this is a risk factor chart more than anything else.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's a great point, because you don't want people to see that and say, oh, I'm 32. It's okay. Even if I get it, it's only going to be mild.
Right.
Absolutely. And this is meant to show the CDC and the WHO criteria, but locally we have overweight and obesity and diabetes as comorbidities. So it could be that someone under 30 to 39 somewhere in the US may come in as a mild, here may appear more as a moderate or even a moderate severe outcome.
You
That's a
know,
fair statement.
I think it might be worth it to make an example, not necessarily in this type of slide, but you know, take a community, rather a contact cluster, and show how there are young people as well as old people in that contact cluster. Those that are younger understand that even if they don't have a severe outcome, they have seeded it potentially to an older member of their family or their household, and that's a danger as well.
Good point. Absolutely.
And I just really want to thank the health department for all that you guys have been doing. I know how much work has put in and how you guys are working really 24/7. I know that you all have been all over the community. I've heard from people whose homes you visited, and they really, really appreciate the information that you're leaving behind. One thing to let everybody know that you all are using gloves, sanitizers, so we're fairly confident that that information has not been contaminated in any way whatsoever. But the one thing that I did want to ask the city to do and just really make clear to the public is to show the trend from the August to Texas, so how many more cases we've been having. I know there's been a slight uptick, and I just want to really make sure that the public understands that just because you're not required to wear a mask doesn't mean it's not a good idea to wear a mask. And then I also just really, really want to thank you and let the public know that we have had multiple concerns from people who, you know, have gotten swabbed and allegedly could be out in the public that are positive. We've had several sightings of people who, you know, allegedly were supposed to be on quarantine or positive and have been seen in the public. So just to remind the public that that is a reality, that there are people out there that could be floating, you know, and whatnot. But I'm so grateful to the city of Brownsville for being so proactive when those concerns started coming in. I have to give a lot of credit to you, Dr. Art, because right away you found a solution and found a way to get more inspectors on top of these people to make sure that if they are found, consequences will be served. Do you know by any chance what consequences could happen if somebody is positive and decides to go out into the public, go grocery shopping, even though a person is positive, but they need, you know, whatever, milk, whatever?
Can I bring up the South Korea thing?
Yeah. You're
Okay. So one of the things that's important to mention, if you do have a positive case, and a great example is the South Korea individual. She ended up infecting over 1,000 individuals by going to one church service. And with that was one of the largest case clusters that had been seen. Everyone was able, a little over 1,000 were able to be traced back exactly in the linkage to her attending that one mass meeting, and multiple deaths came from that. So even if you feel good and you feel healthy, you're not necessarily, the risk that you're giving for other people to catch the disease and pass it on to some of our most vulnerable populations is real. So just keep in mind, you might have only spoken to 1 or 2 people at the grocery store and given it to them, but we don't know where they're going and who they're coming into contact to at that moment. And they could be spreading it at that moment too, especially if they're asymptomatic. And the CDC also recognizes that there's pre-symptomatic transmission. So 48 hours before you are symptomatic, you are spreading, or it is believed that you are spreading the illness to other individuals. So it's always important that if you are receiving that positive, that we're isolating at home, using the proper precautions, and only seeking that medical, venturing out of your home if you do need that medical emergency care, because we don't want you to infect anyone. And also it's important to know that when you are isolating in your home, that you're isolating from the other family members within your household also, because we don't want to pass that on to a family member and then they venture out to help out. So yeah, the consequences of someone breaking that isolation can be extremely devastating in a community, depending on how or where they're going and how many people are arriving at that location at that particular time or within a particular time span. And like I said, I mentioned the South Korea because that was one of the largest that had been seen, and it was well over 1,000 individuals who became infected, and multiple deaths were attributed to that one outing.
And I really appreciate you giving that information, because when I found out, I was hysterical, because what I thought of was how one person who was positive caused something at the veranda in Harlingen. And I just would hate for somebody who works in a nursing home or something like that to be, you know, just trying to buy their groceries, or a provider or somebody just trying to get essentials to somebody they work for and getting infected. And then the last thing I wanted to, I could go back to the slide, show the community transmissions and the community transmissions and the link to previous cases. There it is. Are we measuring pretty much on par with other communities in the Rio Grande Valley and in Texas? Because that was one of my things. One of the things that I noticed is the link to previous cases is very, very high.
I didn't hear that last part.
So let me answer.
Okay.
So to understand your question, Commissioners, how do we, our breakdown of source of infections, whether it's community linked to previous case or travel, compared to other communities in Texas? We have not been comparing ourselves to other communities. We've been looking at our source of infections and breaking it down into this. So I don't have an answer for you, but I can certainly look and see if other counties are breaking down that information in such a way. I do know that as a standard, health departments are sourcing it into these three: community, linked to previous case, or travel. That's a standard that's occurring. Whether it's something they're tracking individually, I couldn't speak to that, but I can certainly look into perhaps Hidalgo County and see how they're doing that as well. I wanted to answer another part of your question that you had, and it's my understanding that the order, the third amended order from the city of Brownsville, does call for penalties, and it's not those penalties that we would be applying for individuals that violate the order. Also, the governor's order, GA 18, also does allow the public health department to encourage individuals to be at home and not to be on the road if they don't need to be out of the home unnecessarily. So there are mechanisms in place that we can affect if needed be to be able to compel people to remain at home. Thank you.
Thanks. And just to follow up, my last question, I promise, guys. So if, let's say I have a coworker that I know has been missing for work for 3 days. We've all been trying to cover their shifts. This person is out on mandatory quarantine because they're sick or they've been tested and we don't have results yet. And I see them out. What is the number to call? Or if I see a positive person, somebody that I know has tested
Right.
at HEB,
County number?
what would I call?
Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what we do normally.
Well, the county health department is the department that's handling what we call the human cases, the tracking of COVID cases. So the number to report, I would begin with 247-3650. As a health department, we're collaborating with them as well, so they can call us as well. But the primary agency during this COVID has been the Cameron County Health Department. And it's not only for that instance, but other instances where they feel potentially that a COVID-19 related situation is occurring.
Thank you. I really appreciate the information.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Rodriguez, I have a question real quick. In terms of testing, what are we going to do going forward to expand the criteria in order to qualify for a test? Because I think that's going to be the key to identifying more positive going forward.
So we recently, the CDC recently put out a guidance document. We recently did expand the criteria. We included some more factors that are now understood to be part of COVID-19 related testing, which included diarrhea-like symptoms, GI, gastrointestinal problems. Some of them we had already added previous to the CDC. But I think a big part of your question is, when can people who may have no symptoms begin to start testing and such, so that we know what the true N number out in the community is? We're engaging with Dr. McCormick to try and answer that. Dr. McCormick is our infectious disease expert that we recently signed an MOU with. We're trying to get a good grasp for what would be the defining criteria and at what point we would either be doing what we call serology, which is the IgM testing, or whether it be criteria for drive-through swab testing. And that was part of my presentation, the last that we're looking at what our community next steps are going to be.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I want to bring up one very important point, Dr. Rodriguez, and correct me if I'm wrong or back me up here, but the chart that we published today shows that we've had a grand total of 149 positives confirmed in Brownsville, with 115 of those recovered. Anybody that can do math can say that there's 34 cases active that we know about. And some people are using that or thinking, okay, there's only 34 cases that are active, we're okay. But people don't understand we've only really tested 1% of our population. So that 34 that may be active that we know about isn't anywhere near representative of our community. So I think the most prudent approach is to multiply that 34 then by 100, right? And then that's I think a better representation of what may be out there, rather than thinking, oh, we've only got 34 cases out there, so everything's fine. We can go to about our business without wearing any protection or without taking care of
I
ourselves.
can put a statement.
That's something I think is important, that people seem to think that because we maybe only have 34 confirmed, that's all that's out there, and that there's very little risk to the community, but that's nowhere near the case.
So what I think would be a good thing to do is on our city website, we have the rates that are going on for people going to our website. And here we will definitely add a statement that this represents only those people who have come through the drive-through, but that citywide numbers are going to be much higher. We can certainly work on a statement so that the public understands that these numbers represent people coming through the drive-through, and in no way is meant to measure an end number of actual cases occurring in the community.
Just in addition, one thing that I can also do is I'll reach out to my contacts at the state and see if they're seeing a particular percentage that they believe is over. And then we could also give, in addition to that, like an estimated non-diagnosed positive. I don't know how that would work, but I would need to reach out to my state contacts and ask them if there's a way that we can do a calculation, or if that they are following that calculation. So that way we could be more accurate with our data and how we're presenting that, in addition to the disclaimer. So that way we can look at different options to more thoroughly represent what's happening within our community.
Thank you.
And Mayor, just to make a point, although we've tested 1% of the population,
Look at information rate or something.
there's nothing to say that we didn't test them 2 months ago and they could have it now. So the numbers are even worse than 1% of Brownsville being tested.
Well, that's true, Commissioner, because I could have tested last week and been negative, but been in contact with somebody this week that now makes me positive, and I don't know. So that is a good point. But I think the most important thing is people are getting lost in that 34 active that we know about, thinking that that's all that exists and thinking that things are fine. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew what percentage of our population have actually been tested.
I agree with you, Mayor.
Thank you.
If I would like to just add that to Commissioner Tetro's question on fines, GA 18, which is the executive order from the state of Texas, does say that under section 418.73, failure to comply with any executive order issued during the COVID-19 disaster is an offense punishable by a fine not to exceed $1,000, confinement in jail for a term not to exceed 180 days, or both fine and confinement. The City of Brownsville local orders does speak to enforcing the order by way of citation, and a violation of the local order is a Class C misdemeanor punishable by a fine not to exceed $500. Thank you.
Thanks for the info.
We did take this work session out of order. We went with item C first. Is somebody going to present on item A now, the continuity plan update?
Mayor, in terms of organizational updates, most of what we've done this past week has been in support of small businesses. Helen and I both sit in on meetings as we plan with PCIC, GBIS, and the Chamber. So Helen will provide a quick overview on what we've done as we prepare for the governor's orders that took effect last Friday.
First of all, we like to support the safe reopening of businesses. Some of the things that we've done this week is, for example, facilitate parking areas in our downtown for easy drive-through and pickup from our restaurants. So facilitating that. We included shop local signage. If you go to our downtown, we started with downtown, but that'll be increased throughout the city. Shop local, support businesses, and also the COVID signs as well. Also, we are working with the health department. Education, I think, is an important part of this whole process, not only because the governor's order speaks to specific minimum health guidelines that businesses need to consider when they determine whether it's safe to reopen, is that we're going to create a COVID safe certificate. We're looking at collaboration with our tech college to be able to do that and create maybe an educational volunteer for food and handling, hygiene, keeping your keeping your employees safe from COVID and your clientele safe from COVID. So best practices, I would say, through an inexpensive certificate program. That's something that we're working on this week. We're also, as City Manager Bernal stated, working with our other partners, BCIC, UTRGV, through our Department of Planning and Development in terms of e-commerce courses, and also reinventing some of our businesses and really having them think beyond the present, beyond the past and into the present, and how commerce and business transactions through even points of sale versus cash only, how we can better assist them transitioning through technology and being a resource to them. So all these different programs with the CDBG COVID-19 money that was received by the City of Brownsville, we are looking at possible new programs that help our small businesses. There may be some that participate in the Startup Texas Fund through BCIC and may need a larger SBA loan, but there may be others that are kind of in the middle or very, very small businesses that maybe need assistance for a couple of months on a more temporary basis. So being able to reach and having a whole variety of programs, I believe it's important in order to assist all types of businesses in the Brownsville succeed in this new COVID past, present, and future environment. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is item B, financial update.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. I'll be brief on this update. In summary, you'll see that total expenditures are $5.5 million, eligible FEMA reimbursements 4.1. This is based on FEMA reimbursement criteria. ODI will add, we've identified some possible funding sources that may increase the reimbursement amount, but ODI will go over those items. The majority of the increase from last week's presentation to this is attributed to salaries, overtime salaries for police and fire contract that almost added up to about $2 million. Also, the increase, want to go over to the next one, please. As you see, the buckets are the same. The different categories on there broken down by personnel. One more, please. Again, the majority of the expenses are related to overtime incurred by the provisions in the contract, where their time is considered time and a half. It increased about $2 million from previous presentation. One of the items to point out that declaration has been lifted. So as of April 30th, May 1st, we'll no longer be having overtime in this amount. So we should see a decrease in these expenses over the next presentation or two. Next page, please. Items on here on the procurement items that we have here, we need to update that procurement amount of 59,500, procure it down to 29,750. We just need to update that we're no longer going to be getting that order. We placed an order with a different provider, and we're in the process of receiving that information. The difference of the drive-through collections is we had an additional 155 tests for uninsured, adding up to $25,000 more in that from last presentation. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Odie so that she could provide an update regarding the possible funding sources.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The City of Brownsville will be applying for, or has applied for, the New American Economy Grant. And this is not a first responder grant, but it's a technical assistance grant, and it was submitted on May 1st. The New American Economy Grant will produce economic demographic research reports, which will highlight and help identify gaps in service provision and challenges that are specific to immigrant communities. And we hope to hear back for a response by mid-July of this year. We also have the assistance to firefighters. It's a supplemental COVID-19 fund grant, and it's due on May the 15th, and this is for Brownsville Fire Department. This funding will go towards personal protective equipment, and fire is currently coordinating their budget for equipment to be purchased through this funding. And the grant anticipates submission by the end of this week. The Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Fund is a federal allocation, and it's due by May 29th of 2020. And the Brownsville Police Department, Brownsville Fire Department, Office of Emergency Management and Finance are working on this. And this is an allocated amount of $110,433 from the BGA that is for first responder technology, and any remaining funds will be used for wages. Grant is pending finalization of the budget worksheet, but anticipates submission by the end of this week. The local COG LRGVDC allocation of the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Fund is due by June the 15th of 2020. And the Brownsville Police Department, Fire Department, OEM, and Finance are working on this. And the total available funding is $1.3 million for the entire Rio Grande Valley. We don't have an exact allocation yet. This funding is yet available to the city until we have applied for the allocated BGA $110,433. And the Grants Department is coordinating with various departments to get that done. We also have our DR 4485, which is our FEMA grant, and that's for the Texas COVID-19 pandemic. And this application opens up 30 days after the incident ends. So this is the one that gives us a 75% reimbursement. Any questions? Thank you.
Lupe, I did want to just make a statement on the overtime pay that we're including in these charts. Even though the departmental declarations are over, can we still continue to include that in our expenses going forward as a separate item? That way we know how much was incurred in emergency pay?
Yes, sir. That is something that what's incurred to date will be submitted for reimbursement, and then ongoing any actual overtime will be also added on.
Okay, but in other words, can you continue to keep that as a separate item in the presentations so that we can still see it?
Yes, sir. We will.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi, Lupe. This is John. I know you're stating that these costs are potentially recoverable up to 75% or even 100%. What kind of guarantee do we have that these costs will be recovered?
It's going to be contingent on funding available by FEMA, where we, like Odie stated, FEMA is going to open up the application process, and it's going to be contingent on funding availability. So our task is to try to get as much as funding identified through the various fundings that Odie has, so that we could minimize the amount that we're going to be requesting from FEMA. The expectation that the funding will be there, but it would be up to the federal government to have that funding available.
See, I asked that same question 2-3 meetings ago, and I was practically assured that it wasn't going to be an issue. So now, if that's a problem, we need to know about it ASAP, because that's been my concern from day one. That we were spending a lot of money, obviously going way over budget, with the expectation that 75% was going to be reimbursable, and that's kind of been the representation going forward up to this point. So if that's not the case, we need to know very quickly. And then also, some of the federal funding is being distributed or being managed by Texas A&M. Who exactly has petitioned for some of those monies, or who is a representative for the city that's looking into that or requesting that money?
I'll get with the grants department, Mayor, and see if they've already reached out to Texas A&M, and if not, we'll start the process on that.
Okay, my understanding is that's the CARES money. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
some of the CARES money is already allocated under the assistance to firefighters.
Okay.
On the supplemental COVID, that's part of the CARES.
Okay. I just want to make sure that somebody's on top of that, because that's the way we're going to get reimbursed, is to work with the state and work with Texas A&M system, who's managing these funds, so that we can make sure that we get reimbursed for this. So I'm trying to figure out who exactly is the person that's responsible for that, and whether they're on top of it.
Mayor, this is Marina. Yes, we're heavily coordinating with our finance department and with the emergency operations center, with OD. Our grants team is looking at the different funding sources, including the ones that OD highlighted before. And so we'll, some of it is the CARES funding. The other one is the allocations to the different federal, as far as FAA, FDA, and also the CDBG and ESG. But yes, we'll definitely keep on updating everyone as far as the funding opportunities and where we are with that.
And Mayor, just to make a note, one of the items to note on the public safety salary cost is a lot of what's mentioned in that number is what's part of our regular budget, and we're deeming it to be part of the hazard pay. What we're saying is a lot of the service that would be otherwise provided to the community, and officers are shifting their man hours to support COVID, we're seeking reimbursement for that. But outside of the hazard pay and any overtime, a lot of that base pay is part of our standard budget. We're still seeking, however, to recuperate some of that funding. So, Mayor, we've had
The mayor's office, from he's communicated to me, lost power.
Yes, we've lost power. The office of the city secretary over in the plaza, they've lost power. I just received a text message. So they may need to get back up. They have a generator, but they may have to get a few minutes here. Mayor, would you like to call a recess while we address the technical issues?
We've lost the mayor, Noel. I think he dropped off as well.
Yeah, I think power is out in West Brownsville, it seems.
James, can you count? I can't see everyone here. Do we still have a quorum? If not, we'll need to suspend temporarily the meeting until we do have a quorum.
Do we have one of the commission members that's on the call still? Motion recessing. Can that be done by any commission member?
Yes, as long as they're on board and they can hear and discuss, and we still have a quorum. But I can't see every screen, so if James could please let me know how many commission members are currently on board.
What I can do, Renee, is I can do a roll call. I see Commissioner Cowan, Commissioner Tetro, Commissioner Gowan, and Commissioner Galonsky. That's the four that I can confirm. Commissioner Neese
also on here.
So yes, Renee, you do still have a quorum.
Okay, great. In that case, and until the mayor can come back, we still have a quorum, so we can proceed with the pro tem, or we can wait for the mayor to come back on.
Lynette, the only concern is that the presentations are being coordinated by the city secretary, and she's lost connection.
I'll make a recess.
I second.
Can we have a commission member call for recess?
I think we have a first and a second. If someone can act as pro tem and collect the voting, please.
I'll collect the votes. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who motion and second?
Roll call. Commissioner Cowan,
Aye.
Lonsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Gowan,
Aye.
Commissioner Neese.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're in recess.
Okay, thank you.
So what do we do? Do we close, do we turn off this meeting or stay here?
No, I would stay on the meeting.
I'll make,
I'll try and figure this out. I'll try and figure this out as I go.
I'll make the motion to reconvene.
We have a motion to reconvene. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Those opposed? Okay, we're back.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions with the last agenda item? Or may we continue?
Let's roll.
Okay, the next work session that we have is the update on the governor's pillar from the Communications and Marketing Department.
That's the governance pillar. Governance pillar. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commission. I know I had mentioned to James and the team that we wanted to make a big entrance. I guess this was kind of too much, so I apologize for that. Thank you for giving me the time to present this presentation. Can we go to the next slide, please? So in terms of the Communications and Marketing Department, we really wanted to focus on building a department that is designed to support the City Commission's strategic vision and pillars by enhancing business development and promoting a positive city image to attract people to live, work, invest, and play in Brownsville, Texas. To sum up, the Communications and Marketing Department was created to tell Brownsville's story. And I think we've done an incredible job so far. If we go to the next slide, please. Our story has several chapters of what we call our guiding pillars, right? It starts with economic development, planning, zoning, and development, infrastructure, public safety, quality of life, and governance. And since the beginning, when we started this department in November, we wanted to set the foundation on how we tell the story, and and we develop a little flow of communication in terms of what we need to do to be effective in the way we tell the story. So the first things first is we need to listen to the department, the city manager's office, or yourselves, the commission, on the message that we want to convey either to our internal or external stakeholders. Number two, we wanted to analyze the projects or project that the department is focusing on and make sure what the message will convey. So who is our audience? Why is the message important? And what methods will we use to communicate effectively? The third part of this is engaging. So how are we going to engage our stakeholders? How are we going to implement our communications plan or strategy? Number four is communicating effectively with our stakeholders and then back to the commission, to the city managers and our leadership, and overall to our entire municipality. So we have to relay the message, and then we most importantly report back. So this is kind of the flow of things in terms of how we look at telling each and every part of Brownsville's story. Next slide, please. So we started back in November 18th to be exact. And we really built a foundation through relationships and a strong production team. We started this with creating a brain trust with internal and external stakeholders. And we asked, why are we needed? Why is communication so important for the city of Brownsville? What is working? How can we, and most importantly, how can we innovate? How can we make something better than it was before? And most importantly, so we can create the infrastructure in terms of our communications and marketing department to lift off. The Brownsville Television production crew is something that's very dear to the community, to the commission, and to the entire municipality. They are so incredibly talented, and they really welcomed me with open arms. So I'd like to thank them for their ongoing support. We have grown together. We have, as you look at our capabilities of our live streams, in terms of the COVID-19 crisis, where we started and where we're at now, we've been really innovative and have grown in the way that we tell Brownsville's story, not only through television, but also through our online streaming. And as you can see, that picture, it has a purpose. So 3 days into joining the department back in November, we had a very important mission, was to host a conference for the Cine Sol festival that was in South Padre Island. So this was the third day on the job, and we were already tasked to highlight one of the City of Brownsville's most important initiatives in terms of film. And that was the picture that would happen there. And I think that really set the stage of where we started it and where we're headed and where we're going now. The main thing that we did in terms of throughout this journey was to create a needs assessment to meet city objectives. So Brownsville Television then became what we call now as BTV Creative, which is a small team that can tell Brownsville's story through digital, social, and print media. On to the next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Felipe, we're working on it. Give us a minute, please.
Okay. Thank you. So if we look at our communication and marketing organizational chart, we're set apart by 3 divisions. We have the Brownsville Television or BTV Creative productions crew, which really focuses on not only communications with our municipality on broadcasting and showcasing all the great initiatives that our departments and that our commission is a part of, but also now selling Brownsville on a world stage and the marketing perspective on telling the story in a bigger level. We also have our Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau that's managed by a very talented individual. And there's, as you can see, there's 3 vacancies that are currently in that division. We're about to interview for the tourism and special events coordinator within a couple, hopefully by the end of the week. And then we have our vacant communications division, which is in green on the outside, this position is still vacant and ongoing in terms of his pursuit of finding the right candidate. We just made an offer for the communications and marketing assistant director, which we hope will start of late May. We have a temporary administrative assistant, and then I'm blessed and very fortunate to be leading this entire department in the hopes of telling Brownsville's story. Next slide, please. We wanted to talk about Brownsville in the media, and we can't, going back to the first picture that I showcased with South Padre Island that I mentioned, that we did our very first conference at the island with showcasing Cine Sol. It was very well attended by the community, but it was not attended by our local media. And that was an issue that we clearly needed to define and we needed to fix. And that was, the solution was, what makes Brownsville unique, what makes us special is the relationships and the culture that we have here. So we built strong relationships with numerous amount of organizations throughout the city. I can't name them all because there was not enough room in this slide. But you can see here we have the South Texas Music Incubator. We have BCIC, the Brownsville Film Society, the Midi Cultural District, BWC, United Way, and BIST. And these are all organizations that I personally met with moving forward when I started here in November and December to build those relationships so we can strengthen our storytelling with the community, not only in the Rio Grande Valley, but also on a regional and national stage. Next slide, please. This is very telling as I continue to mention in terms of our media growth. The last 4 months in 2020, we had 145 media posts for April. That's 145 mentions of Brownsville for the month of April. As you look and we have grown since the start of November all the way to we are now entering May. Our average number of media posts is astonishing, with averaging about 75 mentions in the media per month. This is incredible, and it's really unique and telling on how much work and effort we have put in terms of telling Brownsville's story. Next slide, please. This also mentions our Facebook growth from December 1st, 2019 to May 3rd, 2020. We've actually grown the fastest rather, compared to McAllen, Laredo, Edinburgh, Plano, and Harlingen. We're growing about 1.3% on a weekly basis. As of this week, we're getting close to about 18,000 total page likes. We've increased our following 58%, and the total amount of live streams in the past 6 weeks, we're at 22 live streams, or 23 rather now, including this commission meeting. And with the CVB, we've now entered, we're growing our live stream capacity as well. Next slide, please. Our social media growth for our COVID-19 response from March 2020 to April 2020. This kind of shows our local media mentions. We've been mentioned in the media 1,520 times. And then our social media interaction is really astonishing, with over 400,000 social media mentions talking about Brownsville. Next slide. We've been able to talk about Brownsville in regards to this COVID-19 pandemic with support from Link Strategic Partners, who has really helped us with several key initiatives. One of them was building the framework for what we call the BTX Resilience Action Plan, in terms of how we're going to communicate, which I'll mention further down this presentation. They also helped us create the COVID-19 Community Relations Toolkit that Dr. Rodriguez and the commission members talked about. These are the kits that are actually going out to the community with important resources so they can find more information and get support during this COVID pandemic. We've also grown, as you can see from our charts, they helped us grow with extensive media relations. And then they've helped us create BTX Cares content and development. Next slide, please. Our CVB rebranding and facility facelift. One of the things that we wanted to do in terms of our branding for Brownsville and selling Brownsville on an international stage was giving us a facelift. As you look at our previous logo, if you go back to the previous slide, yes. We have always, our logo was Visit Brownsville, and our tagline was always a fiesta. I still think that we still do a lot of fiesta, but now we do it with a fresher look, in terms of now we have Visit Brownsville, and our tag is We Love This City. And this is probably the mention that's most important, because I think that what the tourists and visitors get when they come and visit Brownsville and the last thing that they walk away with is how much they love this city and how much of an impact it has on them. This also gives us some capacity to sell our brand, not only on a digital and media wide, but also be able to create some neat swag that we could sell and make some revenue out of. Our hot fun collections this fiscal year before COVID-19, our average growth was about 7%, and our social media is also growing. Next slide, please. I'm sure you passed this, our what we call the pyramid. We've done a tremendous amount of work with support from Public Works, Parks and Rec, and internal services in terms of giving the pyramid a much needed facelift, because this is literally the first thing people see when they walk, when they drive into the city of Brownsville and get information. So we wanted to make sure that it really conveys the message that, you know, visit Brownsville, we have our ducks in a row. Next slide, please. Our marketing strategy framework in terms of our strategy for visiting the city of Brownsville is a 6-prong approach in terms of promoting our ecotourism, which we have a tremendous amount. You know, we have the zoo, we have the sable palms, we have the capability of luring birding into Brownsville, and then we have active tourism to sell all the ways that you can tour Brownsville with our Caracara trails, the parks and the parks that we have in Brownsville, and of course the really unique thing that the Brownsville Sports Park, the ability to really embrace the amount of sports that you could do out there. We also wanted to sell our arts and culture. What defines us during February is Chattel Days, and now we introduce the Crossroads Festival, which is really unique to the Rio Grande Valley. Fishing is something that I feel that we haven't not leveraged. The opportunity to fish freshwater and saltwater in a weekend is unique to Brownsville. And of course, also mentioning our ability to also sell Brownsville as a great retirement community. And what ties everything together is why we're all here and why we keep moving forward and pushing the envelope to be innovative here in Brownsville is because we care. We've done a tremendous amount of work to sell Brownsville Cares because we care. We created the website and the whole kind of messaging behind that, given an opportunity to not only show our internal stakeholders that we care, but also show visitors and tourists why we care. Next slide, please. Our work plan elements deal, you know, we're highly involved with every pillar. I'm not going to mention all of them here, but I'll highlight some key initiatives that we've set forth since our onset in November. But number one is developing the organizational culture and that aligns with our values. We created the BTX Media Luncheon, which is BTX Future, and that really set the stage that that we're here, that we have a department now, and I feel that also was a key initiative in getting more media opportunities, more reporters to tell our story on locally and regionally. We have participation in quality of life. We attended several seminars in Boerne, Texas, and Chicago. Next slide, please. We're working on creating a communications plan for Public Works that involves a webpage where the community can see the latest updates on what Public Works is developing and improving. And then we also are working on a hotel feasibility study and hot COVID impact report that will really give us a gauge on where we're at and where we're headed in terms of our development. Next slide. Our resiliency plan, as I mentioned before, this is something that the communications and marketing department developed during the COVID-19 as we are. And the first thing was the respond phase, which, prioritizing the immediate action needed to address our current and emergent issues. Our recover phase, which we're slowly rolling out of right now is focusing on the city's efforts to rebuild from the social and economic impact of the crisis. And of course, renew, which we want to move towards, is adapting the new normal. What is going to be the new normal here for Brownsville? And it's going to involve reimagining our operations and how we're going to come out of this crisis stronger than before. Next slide. The Communications and Marketing Department also has 2 advisory committees under them. We have our CDB committee, and we also have the Brownsville Board of Film Commission. Next slide. One of the last slide here is I wanted to showcase our department growth. The new department was established in fiscal year 2019-2020. We want to create benchmarks, and we also want to promote professional development in technical areas and fill vacancies that will support key initiatives. One of those things, and continually in telling our story, is our investment in promoting the city's positive image through the web stream and the capabilities of web stream and podcasts with the radio expansion of KXIQ 105.1 FM. To the right, we have our project completion rate of 82%. And as of right now, we're blowing through our COVID-19 projects, but we appreciate your continued support. And with that said, take any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Mr. Romero, thank you. Great work.
The next agenda item that we have is the consent agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, before we move to the consent agenda, and for the record, I would like the commission to note that Commissioner Galante has noticed her conflict with item E in the consent agenda, and that she is elected to recuse herself from voting on that item. And her vote will be limited to items 8 through D.
Very good, counsel. Thank you. Just make sure, City Secretary, that the minutes reflect that Commissioner Galansky is not voting on that item. Can I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
I think in the future it would be nice if we could at least see what they are. 1, so the public knows, but 2, in case any of the other commission members haven't had time to go through the agenda and make sure that we don't have any questions as well.
We'll make a note of that, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't want to have any problems or get dragged into court. Thanks.
Next agenda items that we have are the public hearings. Public hearing number 1, public hearing in action to approve resolution number 2021-031 to authorize the filing of the fiscal year 2020 section 5307 urbanized area formula program grant apportionment in the amount of $2,686,492 with the Federal Transit Administration and Operating Administration of the United States Department of Transportation for federal transportation assistance authorized by 49 U.S.C. Chapter 53, Title 23, United States Code.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. This funding is Brownsville Metro's federal allocation for Section 5307, Capital Planning and Operating Assistance for Public Transportation. We are required to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on the proposed program of projects. A hearing was posted, a public hearing notice was published in the legal notice section of the Brownsville Herald on Sunday, March the 29th, 2020, and our city website. The program of projects include the 3 categories. Operating assistance, we had federal apportionment was $1,569,180 with a local match of the same amount for a total project of operating assistance of $3,138,360. For capital items, we allocated $1,063,851 for preventative maintenance at an 80-20 share. The local share for that amount is $265,963 for a total capital line item of $1,329,814. We are also have software for fixed route service at $26,865 at an 80-20 match with a local match of $6,716 for a total project cost for that line item of $33,581. Our short range planning was $26,596 at an 80-20 match as well, with a local share of $6,649 for a total project cost of $33,245 for that line item. So the total proposed project cost for this grant allocation, the federal portion is $2,686,492, with a local share of $1,848,508 for a total project cost of $4,535,000. The local match has been included in the Brownsville Metro fiscal year 2020 budget. This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Do we have anybody here on this item? Okay, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Or a motion to close? Do I have a second?
Second.
Or a motion and a
Fitzner.
second? Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Do we have any?
I'll move that we approve the resolution as proposed.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as proposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Or a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Next, we have public hearing number 2, public hearing and action to approve resolution number 2020-032 to authorize the filing of the fiscal year 2020 section 5310 enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities grant apportionment in the amount of $166,311 with the Federal Transit Administration and Operation Administration of the United States Department of Transportation for federal transportation assistance authorized by 49 U.S.C. Chapter 53, Title 23, United States Code.
These funds are the annual federal allocation of our Section 5310 funds, which supports transportation services planned, designed, and carried out to meet the special transportation needs of seniors and individuals with disabilities. Brownsville Metro's role with these funds is to administer, manage, program the funds, and oversee the selection and implementation of the program of projects. Brownsville Metro solicited an outreach for submission of grant proposals for this round of funding by publishing English and Spanish notices in the Brownsville Herald on Wednesday, April 1st, 2020, and posting them on the city's website. No interested parties came forward and no applications received. Therefore, since no one applied, this action cost the city of Brownsville Metro to self-certify for the fiscal year 2020 Section 5310 program funds. Brownsville Metro also certifies that they can successfully meet and exceed the requirements of the 5310 grant program, consisting of the following program of projects. Under capital, $99,787,000 will be programmed for software and paratransit scheduling at an 80-20 match, with a local match being $24,947 for a total line item amount of $124,734. $8,316 will be spent for hardware and for the paratransit service, At 80/20, 2,079 would be the local match for a total line item cost of $10,395. Also for signal communication and radios, we programmed 24,947 federal, an 80/20 match with a 6,237 local share, making it 31,184 for this line item. Preventative maintenance was budgeted at 33,261 at 80% at 80/20 match with 8,314 local for a total of 41,576 for this line item. For a total project cost on this grant, federal amount 166,311, 41,578 local, for a total project cost for this grant of $207,889. The local match has also been included in the city's Brownsville Metro's fiscal year's 2020 budget. This, again, is public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Is anybody here on this item? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve? I'm sorry, motion to close public hearing.
Second?
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
I'll move to approve the resolution as proposed.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have items for individual consideration. Item number 3, consideration and action on an agreement between the City of Brownsville and the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation for eBridge design services.
If there's no one here to speak on that one.
Yeah,
Morales on?
Mayor, can you all see me?
Can't see anybody. Is that you, Rem?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I can't see you, man. That's, but we can hear you.
Okay, so I don't know what's going on. This is, as you all know, the building on the corner of 13th and Adams, the old Casa Nylon. The city has entered into an agreement with BCIC to develop the eBridge Center, and so this is basically it boils down to a reimbursement agreement from BCIC to the city. Because BCIC would like to use our architecture services, and so this item specifically is to approve that to approve the reimbursement agreement. The reimbursement agreement is in the total of $142,900.
I do have a question, Ramiro. There's a reference here to an Exhibit A, which I guess was a prior agreement with Roberto Ruiz. That was not attached as part of our packet. Therefore, my question is, the contract references a $142,000 reimbursement to BCIC for these services. However, I don't see that.
No,
I don't see that that's a total of the services. So I'm wondering if the understanding is that is supposed to be the total for the services, or is that just how much we're going to be reimbursing, and then we're still on the hook for the rest?
No. So we're not. The BCIC is reimbursing the city. So we have an architecture rotation, and so in this specific case, Mr. Roberto Ruiz had already done some previous work on the Casa Nylon building, and therefore it would be cheaper. It would be less expensive for BCIC to use Roberto Ruiz, and so that is the reason why Roberto Ruiz was chosen on this project. And so really, it's BCIC reimbursing the city for $142,900 as the project moves forward.
Okay.
So, Mayor, what it is BCIC is entering into the architectural agreement with Rodriguez through the city's term contract with the architects.
Exactly.
It's going to save us a bunch of money by going through that. Plus, like Ramiro said, he had already worked on on that building on a previously planned project. So it benefits the BCIC to pay less through the city's term agreement.
No, I totally understand, Commissioner. Thanks. My only question was going to be as to the contract itself, because it wasn't clear if the money, the 142,000 was for the entirety of the services, or if
Mr. Mayor,
it was-
That is
was
the
my
entirety of
understanding for
the
that phase,
services.
which is the architectural phase.
if I can address that, Mayor, I did review the exhibit, and that was the old contract with the architect. And in regards to the amount that is being presented by Ramiro tonight, that is not the amount of the services or the cost of the services. That's just a top end as to what BCIC may be able to contribute back to the city of Brownsville.
Okay, so then if it's more than that, is the city going to pay for any overage?
No, I think, Mayor, to answer your question, I think it would be, we would bring this agreement back to an amendment, for an amendment if in case the services go over that. I don't believe that they will. That is a full design service fee, 142,000. And it also includes the windstorm certification, and it includes accessibility work and inspections and all that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty well-rounded fee. There should be no changes. That I don't anticipate any changes, but if there are, then we would have to bring this amendment back or this agreement back for an amendment, and then we would have to bring a change order to the services again.
Okay, thanks. Council, can I suggest that in the future, if the intent is for it to be a fixed fee contract, that it denote that or at least have a cap, because it seems to be open-ended the way I read it?
Mayor, when I read the contract, it basically stipulated that BCIC would reimburse the city back up to that amount. And it does have a cap. It does not read any other way.
Well, right, it does have a cap for BCIC reimbursement. It doesn't necessarily have a cap on the services themselves.
Well, we had no information as to how much the services would cost. And it's a contract for reimbursement for using of the services. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, it's a reimbursement back, but the contract itself did not provide any information as to what the amount itself would be. My understanding from Ramiro was that it would not exceed that amount.
Okay, but you would agree with me that the contract doesn't state that?
Correct. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Well, in the future, can we make sure that our contracts reflect what the understandings are, please?
Definitely.
Anybody else have any questions?
Approve that agreement.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Next, we have item number 4, consideration and action to award a contract to Roberto J. Reese Architect for eBridge Design Services in the amount of $142,900.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is the contract that we just spoke about. So he will be doing the design work for the eBridge Center. BCIC is requesting the use of our term contract. And so the total here is $142,900.
I'll move to approve that.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
That should get that project going.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have item number 5, consideration and action regarding $150,000 from the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation in emergency assistance efforts provided to businesses in response to COVID-19.
Hi, everybody. I'm here. Graham Severe Schultz is the chair from GBIC. I'm not sure if Mr. Lozoya was able to join us on this meeting. I understand this was discussed at a previous meeting, and this was on this agenda as an action item. But I am here to answer any questions about the funding that we've made available to our partners.
Mr. Severe, because Mr. Lozoya isn't here, do we know whether he's been disconnected, Griselda?
I see him on our end, Mayor.
Okay, because if he was, is he going to present on this?
Mr. Severe, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
I think I heard Mr. Lozoya.
Yeah, I'm on here.
Okay.
Essentially, Mr. Mayor, the presentation was made in the last commission meeting, yet the posting was not noticed for action. This time it's back around notice for action, so there's no presentation.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, so then, Mr. Severe, can you give the perspective of your board? Has this been approved by your board already? Can you give us a little bit of an insight on what's occurred at the board level here?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it has been discussed and approved at the board. We actually had a specific meeting with this as kind of our main item. We were able to deobligate some previous funding from a previous budget cycle and kind of subsequently award most of that deobligated money towards this effort. Since COVID-19 was moving so quickly, we wanted to really work on collaborating with some of our partners, make that available to BCIC, the Chamber of Commerce, help them kind of manage business applicants seeking funding, and provide them with some actual manpower, and kind of help them handle all the workload that's been increasing so quickly and changing so drastically. That was kind of our perspective from the board.
Okay, and the funding is in two different types. Was it 75,000 and 75,000?
That's correct. So 75,000 was allotted to the Chamber of Commerce so they could manage business applicants seeking federal funding. Some of that's evolved since the federal funding ran out so quickly in the first round. So we're hoping they can just secure any type of funding, whether it be low interest regional banks or through some of the BCIC Startup Texas funding. But basically we wanted to make sure that no businesses lost funding because their application was incomplete or because they didn't know how to navigate the system. So we wanted to essentially employ specialists who can help people understand, applicants and businesses understand the tax forms and the financial statements that might be requested by some of the banks in this process. So that's 75,000. The other 75 was to help bolster BCIC.
Okay.
In their efforts.
So then for the initial, I'm sorry, Mr. Severe, for the initial 75,000, if the intent of it was to assist individuals with applications for particular loans, and those loan funds have pretty much been exhausted at the federal level, is the intent then to stop that initiative for the time being and save those costs?
So the understanding that I got from the rest of the board in our discussion was that we want to help however possible. And if the federal funding is no longer available, we would like to help connect businesses with either forgivable grants or very low interest loans, if those are still available. And again, the second round of funding was released, and I think it's mostly exhausted, but there is still some funding available as far as I know.
Is this another?
We have not paid out the full 75,000 to the chamber. If that's what you're asking.
Okay. All right.
But it was really linked to employing financial specialists who would then aid businesses in their application process.
Okay. Commissioner Anise, you're trying to say something?
Yeah, on the BCIC side of it, y'all already awarded 75. Is this another 75?
It's 150 total divided into two $75,000 increments.
Okay, because y'all already did the other 75,000.
I think, yes, and I think that BCIC did move and vote and approve acceptance of that 75 to their budget to go towards the Startup Texas. So that pocket of money was going to be used to help secure grants from regional banks and low interest loans from regional banks. So that would be kind of a bridge or almost a guarantee to help secure loans.
So, but you're not, that item should be for 75,000 then to chamber, right? Because you already.
Well, this item seems to be worded so that it's for the whole amount, not the subdivided amount.
But you're correct, Commissioner Nee, 75,000 to the BCIC initiative and then 75,000 for the chamber initiative that Mr. Severe discussed.
I don't know why I'm thinking that it was already done.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Commissioner Neese. I don't know if it's just me.
There we go. I thought that it was already awarded to BCIC since we accepted.
It's basically pending the approval on this level at the commission. The way we worded it in our motions in our board meeting had it as 150,000 and then subdivided it from there. So I think that's why it's worded in this way on this agenda.
All right.
Again, our motivation at the board was really to collaborate and move as quickly as possible as a type A. I know that's been one of my priorities since you all put me on the board and since I've become the chair. So hopefully this can be the beginning of some more momentum to work collaboratively with our partners.
That's very encouraging.
I appreciate that, Mr. Severe. And like we said, if this is approved then on the 75,000 that was allocated for the chamber, if that's not going to be used for that, then I would suggest trying to save those costs and either repurposing them for the same initiative or otherwise. Thanks.
Sure. And at the suggestion of Mr. Lazoya, we did break it into two partial payments. So if we do need to kind of redirect that money or hold it back and use it for another use, that is still a possibility.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
So Graham, from what you sound, has any of that money already gone to the Chamber of Commerce?
I would have to double check to confirm that. I know that we are pending this, hopefully approval from you all.
Okay, and have you been informed that they've already hired someone to carry out the JBIC funding?
I know that they did interviews, and one of our board members, Dennis Sanchez, was there with Ms. Esme from the chamber, and I spoke over the phone with Esme, and she said that they did have some very good candidates. So I am hopeful.
So has anyone spoken to Esme though? Maybe even Mario, or since more recently to confirm whether or not they're still just on waiting for the approval of the city commission?
I think that they did commit to hire people, and they were just waiting for us to send them the money if this item is approved.
Okay, and so given the circumstances, what do you think, although I'm putting you on the spot by speaking on for the whole entire board, do you think it's better to continue with hiring these people to help to assist individuals or businesses to apply for the loans, or would you think that it's better to have that money directly going to the business?
I think that the wording of this item kind of restricts it to going straight to businesses. I'd like to explore that as a separate option. I do recognize the need of local businesses to have funding available, especially with as quickly as things have been moving. But I think that the wording and the contracts that we've been working on in the agreements would limit it from being available as loans or grants.
Okay, but if we were to approve it then, and you find that those 75,000 for the chamber are no longer necessary, then would you bring that? Would you not spend it and then maybe bring it at a separate meeting for approval?
Correct, and we are looking at other ways we can be effective in the future and bringing workers back to full employment as well. But yes, we could work on the wording so that if this is no longer useful or applicable or relevant, then we could retain control of the money.
Okay. Anybody else?
This is John. I think maybe for the next meeting, I'd like to get an update on how the total impact that the BCIC and GBIC potential funding has had on the community. So just how many businesses we've touched and with the success that we've had in contributing to this this effort.
Definitely.
I'll confirm what John is saying. He puts it nicely, but I'm going to say I want a more detailed report about which businesses you're contacting. Are you figuring, or are you asking them what they need? Because I decided to just randomly reach out to a few District 1 businesses that I thought appropriate, and only one of them, or they informed me that the only time they've heard from GBIC was way at the beginning. There hasn't been any follow-up. So before we start committing money to helping these businesses, I would like to make sure that it's going to go towards what their problems really are, instead of just guessing at what they might be from information that was received over a month ago.
Sure. So the reason we decided to partner with BCIC and the Chamber is that they've had some really good infrastructure in place for the smaller businesses. What we have coming up on our upcoming board meeting is helping to make sure that the primary employers, some of which we incentivize, some of which we don't, have the proper PPE and hopefully have some sort of testing in place to bring back their workers at full employment. But again, we can update you all after we have our meeting at your subsequent board meeting, commission meeting.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear, is there a cap on how much money each business would be receiving?
We are not awarding money to businesses. We are funding the employment of financial specialists to help businesses prepare their applications for loans or grants. At least in this item.
I think it's a good start, and I really appreciate GBIC reaching out and making sure that these small businesses have an extra lifeline. We saw when the PPP went out, we saw when the disaster relief loans went out, they went to the big businesses first, and that was really unfair because the mom and pops, as a local business owner, I can attest to it. I know you can too. It is really, really hard on some months to make payroll, make sure you pay that light bill, make sure that your insurance is covered. We all have to have it in case a customer slips or something happens. But most importantly, that struggle month is going to be every month until this is over. And every business that we can touch and every business that you can help, really, really, I promise you, it's gonna mean a lot to somebody getting better sleep at night, knowing that that's covered. So we really appreciate that and your efforts. And I know there's a whole lot of things to be worked out, but it really says a lot that GBIC is making sure that our small businesses stay open.
Thank you. And one of my main concerns in this whole process is making sure that we can reach some of the businesses that might not have the biggest web presence. And again, might not have the biggest bankrolls and might not be scouring Facebook or devoting all the time to internet searches. So we're trying to do some, boots on the streets and some newspaper publications to let businesses know that there is help available. But yeah, I thank you for that. I'd like to make myself personally available to any of you who do have input or questions, or if you do want to connect me with some businesses that you think GBIC could help, feel free to reach out to me personally.
Thanks, Graham. Anybody else?
Motion
You're muted. I think Commissioner Golansky is speaking, but she's muted.
Nerith, unmute. We still can't hear you.
Sorry. So just because it's something that you said, Graham, confused me. So the money that's going to the Chamber of Commerce is going directly to people to help businesses apply for loans or what is the federal government, correct? Well, but the money's going to hire people at the Chamber of Commerce to help businesses apply for for loans, correct? It's not that money's going to be used as a leverage to increase the amount of money that or the amount that the loans are for the businesses, correct?
The chamber money, that's correct and that's accurate. But then the money that it's half of this 150 that we worked with BCIC on preparing is actual money to help businesses secure loans or grants.
My thing is, though, that given the circumstances with the availability of loan money for businesses, why wouldn't it be better to use the entire $150,000 to leverage it to increase the amount of money going directly to these businesses instead of just hiring people for the Chamber of Commerce?
I agree, and I think that $150,000 would be a drop in a bucket, and I'd love to make more available. I was thinking like around the $400,000 to $500,000 amount. But at the time we were figuring out this agenda item, everything was moving so quickly, and they just announced the billions of dollars that were going to be made available for PPE. So we just wanted to help connect those businesses to that money. So there is potential for us to award more money for different use that can go directly to the business and business owners, but that's not what this item was constructed for.
So how often are y'all meeting, the JBIC board, so that you can decide on these?
We were meeting monthly until the commission it might have been a city order basically said that we could not meet. And then we're doing kind of special called meetings irregularly, but it's been monthly so far for the past 2 months.
Okay.
And as chair, I'm happy to call meetings whenever we have urgent matters and whenever we have an agenda that we can all gather for.
Okay.
All right, anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Me, nay.
Okay, Commissioner Galansky is a nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sever. Next item.
Next agenda item is agenda item number 6, consideration action to approve resolution number 2020-036, authorizing the transfer of a 0.6213 acre tract of land to Cameron County for public purposes.
Commissioners, this is Eduardo Santillán with the Engineering Department. This property is located at the corner of Lima Street and Salmos Boulevard. This is where the original right-of-way for Lima Street used to be and is not needed anymore. And also the site of an elevated water tower that it has been removed. Cameron County has the intention of building a service center to be used by the general public, and we believe it's a good use for the land. Mr. Tony Zaguirre from Cameron County is available to answer any question, and we will ask for your consideration and approval.
Okay, on the city side of this, what are we using the property for currently? Is there any use for it?
No, it's a vacant land.
Okay.
If I may answer that, the PUB water tower used to be on top of that location, but it got knocked down last year, and so now it's vacant land.
Okay. Is there any plans internally for the city, or was there any plans for that property?
No, no plans.
Okay. And have we determined that the county needs an additional office for tax purposes?
I'm going to allow Mr. Izaguirre to answer that question.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is Tony Izaguirre, your tax assessor collector. Presently, we have a small office inside your southmost police station there on Southmost. We've been there for the last 15 years. It's a one-person office. That office, that little building, or the building wasn't designed to have us there, and it's been the small office is overused, and we don't have room for our customers, your taxpayers, our taxpayers. They're not being serviced properly. So our plans are to obtain this property and build a 4,200 square foot building with drive-through windows, and be able to service the area the way it should be. So that's one of the reasons that we're asking for the property, so we can build a brand new building for those citizens of that area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Izaguirre.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any other questions? Commissioner Neese, is that you?
Yes, it was.
Is that a motion? Did you say motion to approve? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Second then. Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for your assistance and support of this project. And I really want to extend my thanks to Eddie Santillan that's been helping me on this project for the last 14 months. It's I think it's long overdue on a project of this type. And I want to thank you personally, Mayor, and each commissioner. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Mr. Y.
Next agenda item, item number 7, consideration and action on resolution number 2020-037, temporarily suspending the enforcement of city code sections 102-7, 102-76, and 102-77 for certain persons as requested by the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, and authorizing actions necessary or convenient to carry out this resolution.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the commission. This is Eddie Hernandez. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Well, it seems pretty clear, Eddie. I mean, this is just an item to, I guess, commemorate on the city side the PUB program to ensure that individuals are not charged late fees or shut off, right?
Correct. This is basically what we're asking is ratification of suspension of allowing us to serve people who owe the city money, not to charge them late fees, and not to have to disconnect them, because the ordinance kind of require that we do those things. So what we're trying to do is suspend that so that we can, in this time of with COVID, kind of give our customers a break and work with them.
I'll gladly make the motion.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Tetra. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 8, consideration and action on resolution number 2020-040, supporting Come Dream, Come Build application to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Affordable Housing Grant Program.
Did your lights come back on, Mayor?
Yes, they did. I am back. Right on cue for the PUB presentation. Thank you. All right, so who's presenting on this item?
Mr. Vasquez, can you present? You're on mute. We cannot hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The planning department is facilitating this grant application request on behalf of CDCB. This is a request to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas's Affordable Housing Grant Program to facilitate the redevelopment of their downtown mixed-use residential project. The grant application makes them eligible for up to $400,000 in potential infusion in their redevelopment of the Samato building downtown. We recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Neese, your microphone is really low. Whenever you speak, can you maybe get closer or turn the volume up?
Yeah.
Thanks. Motion
Next we
passes.
have-
Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 9. Consideration and action to approve Fourth Amendment Declaration of Local State Disaster for Public Health Emergency.
Mayor, I don't know if you want to start and say a few words before I begin.
Well, sure. As we know, the governor has put some orders in place that restrict some of our ability to mandate certain things, i.e. facial coverings and other shelters in place and a couple other items. So therefore, our third amended order is expiring today. So it's incumbent on us to extend that to our fourth amended to continue to restrict certain access enclosures for city buildings, as well as other items that we can still, as we still have jurisdiction over. So we've been working on this. I believe, Ms. Ramirez, I believe that you had sessions with different commissioners to discuss this, and we got input from everybody. So I think we've got a finished product in place. And we do refer, I know, to the governor's orders in our particular order as well, our proposed order, so that our citizens can refer to the governor's guidelines on this as well.
Sure, thank you for that.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that we would like to clarify is that the GA18 does remain in effect and in full force until, for now, 11:59 p.m. on May 15, 2020, unless it's modified, amended, rescinded, or superseded by the governor, which that may be occurring soon. The order does begin by stating that in accordance with the guidance of the Department of State Health Services Commissioner Dr. Hellerstedt, and to achieve the goals established by the president to reduce the spread of COVID, every person in Texas shall, except where necessary to provide or obtain essential services or reopen services, minimize social gatherings and minimize in-person contact with people who are not in the same household. And for example, household is people that you live with in your residence. People over the age of 65, however, are strongly encouraged to stay at home as much as possible to maintain appropriate distance from any member of the household who has been out of the residence in the previous 14 days, and if leaving the home, to implement social distancing and to practice good hygiene, environmental cleanliness, and sanitation. As outlined in Governor Abbott's Executive Order GA18, starting at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, May 1st, that was Friday, restaurants may operate for dine-in service up to 25% of the total listed occupancy of the restaurant, provided, however, that A, this applies only to restaurants that have less than 51% of their gross receipts from the sale of alcoholic beverages and are therefore not required to post the 51% sign required by the Texas law as determined by the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission. And B, valet services are prohibited except for vehicles with placards or plates for disabled parking. All establishments must conduct services to the strict compliance with the terms required by the Texas Department of State Health Services. The DSHS requirements and protocols for establishments may be found at www.dshs.gov/coronavirus/openTexas.aspx /protocols. And I'm not going to go over all the paragraph with regard to that. I would request that everybody go to that website to understand their specific measures. Restaurants and bars are strongly encouraged to allow delivery, pickup, and takeout only, so as long as no more than 10 people congregate in the takeout area. It is strongly recommended that employees wear gloves and facial coverings. Drive-through and takeout patrons are to be instructed to remain in their vehicles. If takeout patrons are on foot, they must be at least 6 feet from each other. Businesses are encouraged to implement procedures whereby takeout patrons pay via phone or electronic means. Downtown city parking will continue to be suspended in order to support these measures. Parking areas within shopping areas are also strongly encouraged to create takeout and delivery designated parking spaces. Next point, starting at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, May 1st, 2020, and as outlined in GA 18, non-essential in-store retail establishments may generate at up to 25% of the total listed occupancy of the retail establishment. All establishments must conduct services in strict compliance with the terms required by the Texas Department of State Health Services that can be viewed on their website. Retailers are strongly encouraged to operate through pickup, delivery by mail, or delivery to the customer's doorstep. It is strongly recommended that employees wear gloves and facial coverings. Pickup patrons are to be instructed to remain in their vehicles. If pickup patrons are on foot, they must remain at least 6 feet from each other. Retailers are encouraged to implement procedures whereby takeout patrons pay via telephone or electronic means. Downtown city metered parking will continue to be suspended in order to support these measures. Starting at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, May 1st, 2020, and as outlined in GA 18, shopping malls may operate at up to 25% of the total listed occupancy of the shopping mall. But shopping mall food court, dining areas, play areas, and interactive displays and settings must remain closed. All establishments must conduct services in strict compliance with the terms required by the Texas Department of State Health Services. Retailers in shopping malls are strongly encouraged to operate through pickup, delivery by mail, or delivery to the customer's doorstep. It is strongly recommended that employees wear gloves and facial coverings. Pickup patrons are instructed to remain in their vehicles. If pickup patrons are on foot, they must be at least 6 feet from one another. Retailers are encouraged to implement procedures whereby takeout patrons pay via telephone or electronic means. Parking areas within shopping areas are strongly encouraged to create pickup designated parking spaces. Next point, in accordance with GA 18, cosmetology salons, including nail and esthetician, massage establishments, and laser hair establishments must remain closed.
Ms. Ramirez, on this item, I just want to point out the governor today did state that some salons and other studios will be able to open on May the 8th, which is this Friday. So that's where our catch-all at the end of this regarding the governor's orders is going to apply.
Yes, that is correct. And even with those measures, there are some additional limitations and restrictions on their opening as well. It is strongly recommended that occupants traveling in a vehicle with more than one person use facial coverings or masks. Furthermore, it is recommended that no children under 14 years of age accompany a parent or guardian for routine grocery supplies or gasoline replenishment trips. Next point, bingo establishments are closed.
Ms. Ramirez, can you just read the changes? Because that was in our old order, so can you just read the changes?
Sure. Garage sales and yard sales are not permitted. Churches and places of worship guidelines may be also found at the DCSHS protocols website. The City of Brownsville Golf Center is to remain closed. With regarding city parks being reopened for engaging in physical activities, as outlined in Executive Order GA 18, individuals may engage in outdoor sports, provided that the sports do not include contact with other participants and no more than 4 participants play the sport at any time. Public swimming pools are closed. We added one change to this point. In-person meetings of city advisory boards, commissions, boards, and bureaus are canceled. However, meetings may occur remotely. And then with regard to facial coverings, we do strongly encourage them for individuals over the age of 5. We did add one last sentence where it says, it is recommended that local establishments promote disinfecting of frequently touched objects, for example, countertops, tables, and chairs, and encourage proper hand washing techniques. That's all. Those are the
Thank you.
Helen, can I ask a question? Why is it that somebody can't have a garage sale? I do agree with no more temporary food permits, like no more chicken plates, anything like that, because we cannot guarantee that there's no transmission. But I'm just curious, why is it that no garage sales are allowed, but yet you can go to a store and shop and things like that?
I'm going to let Dr. Rodriguez speak on that. And this is temporary. Garage sales after this would be permitted, and this is a temporary measure that was specifically requested by Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez, are you on the line? Can you please further explain that specific measure?
And I'm just asking because I see a lot of people upset online.
Well, the retail establishments, it's an occupancy, so it's 25% of the retail establishment. I don't know that we can create a percentage for garage sales. The question is that the disinfection of the books or whatever, the equipment and whatever is sold in a garage sale. I believe that was the biggest concern from our health department. And so they felt comfortable temporarily, they requested temporarily not allow it. And then when we feel that there's hygiene and other measures that they can reopen. They can yeah.
I would agree with what Helen is saying, Commissioner Tetreault. You can't make sure that the person whose home it is disinfecting the things that they are selling.
Or even that somebody that lives there isn't positive.
That's true too.
Yeah, and Commissioner Tetreault, what I would share, I'm not sure this is part of it as well, so I won't speak on behalf of Dr. Rodriguez, but it also may be tied to the service level impact on public health, being that they're tied up with a lot of other COVID-19 functions. It's just one less thing that they have to worry about while they're having to support so many other things that are going on in the community.
And then my last question, and I guess Dr. Art's not on the line, but I guess for you, Noel, are we making additional inspectors, or is there any way that we can make sure that the inspectors are out there checking these restaurants, making sure that they're following these guidelines?
Yeah, they've been doing that since the very beginning. They've been out there, that boots on the ground initiative, while it's now more formalized, it's been going on since day one. So as the orders came down, part of why some of the initial orders, if you recall, the very first one had language that included more than police officers who could execute the order. Part of that was to provide more latitude for some of the inspectors to be able to go out, not enforce, but to have the ability to educate and work with the business community to comply with the orders. So they've been in the front lines doing the work of the order since the very beginning. And now they've actually just been able to package it better and just basically adapt and fulfill whatever needs might be out there in the community.
Right. I know that our health department, as it was, we give them a lot of tasks to do on a daily basis. But now with the COVID threat and the COVID situation, I just want to make sure that, I know you will, make sure that the health department is adequately staffed with all of these food tests they're assigned to do.
Well, they've done it all. I mean, if you look at some of the images, they even help the elderly carry food to their vehicles. So everywhere, I mean, public health has been everywhere, literally hands-on doing work across different functions.
I would also say, add to that, our police department has done a very good job. We have, when we do receive, complaints or things that have been brought up in question with regard to how a business is operating, the police department has been picking up those calls more as an education as well, and requesting compliance. One of the initiatives that we have with the COVID Safe certificate that we want to create, and maybe we make it, is for all businesses to be able to have access to good practices in hygiene and in maintaining the businesses clean, in food preparation and handling. COVID has changed the way everybody does business. And so we want to ensure also that our businesses at least are given the opportunity to take these certificate courses. Not supposed to be long, it's supposed to be really to the point and just have good practices for them to reopen. Hopefully, this is something that they can also post on their windows saying that at least they've gone through some sort of formal type of course and receive a formal certificate.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, I also want to add the question on the garage sales. So we've noticed that as soon as the state declaration came, there was a big push to have them, but not in the small neighborhood. It was to do them in the big manner, and we're hoping that after the second, third declaration, we can be there with the garage sales. But right now, we felt that given the current situation, it was prudent to continue this within this order for at least this next preview period, possibly the next, because it does equate into the social distancing aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That concludes the measures as read.
Thank you. Does anybody have any additional questions?
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Okay.
For a motion and a second, any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 10, consideration and action to award a change order number 8 to Spa Glass Contractors, Inc. for the terminal project at the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport in the amount of $230,866.
Good evening.
45 cents.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. We've been actively working on this terminal for over 500 days. I think we've charged to date about 520 days. We currently have well over 100 people on site on a daily basis, working on the inside and outside of the terminal. The item before you is change order number 8 to Spa Glass Contractors. That's in the amount of $230,886.45. There's a long list of items that's associated with this change order. The items I'd like to kind of break out and kind of talk about are the installation of the irrigation for landscaping. That's the biggest item in this change order. At the very beginning of the project, we had irrigation and landscaping package included in the original bid. We removed that package knowing that we would inject it later into the project. So we're injecting the irrigation portion of that into this change order. We're going back and reviewing the landscaping portion and kind of keeping an eye on the cost of the landscaping portion. That will come to probably at a later date. Item number 10 is the credit change for a glass. We do have a couple credits on here that you would notice. That is to replace glass railings with stainless steel railings, and that's for a maintenance purpose. That was for $30,000. And the credit for Bowenite mock-up, that's actually our polished concrete terminal flooring solution. Due to COVID-19, they were unable to travel down to Brownsville to do the mock-up of the flooring, so they did it in Dallas, and that saved us about $3,500. The last item I'd like to talk about is item 13. The change order is in the amount of $230,000. We removed item 13 from the original change order. So the original change order was $263,000. So the actual change order is in the amount of the $230,000. These items will be funded through short-term tax notes with the intention to convert the tax notes to COs in the future. And to date, I believe with this change order, we're about just shy of 13% of the original contract amount. And I can answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Commissioner Gowan, did you second?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next,
Mayor,
we
if I
have-
could Mayor, if I could say one other thing, this is Bryant Walker, I'm Aviation Administrator. We also will be submitting to the Commission a list of items, costs, the award amount, and any potential costs that we see coming down the pike, such as the FF&E. So we'll be providing that to the Commission in the next few days.
Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 11, consideration and action to award a term contract for marketing and consulting services to C. Spence Group.
Mayor, City Commissioner, this is Ramiro Gonzalez. Felipe will be presenting the work order number 1, but this is basically the term contract, a 1-year term contract that is renewable for 2 additional extra years after the first year is done. There is no monetary commitment with this contract. This is solely the term contract, so that if any city departments or any city department within our structure needs additional marketing services or assistance, this contract is in place to allow for that to happen quickly. And so, like I said, the first term contract, there is no monetary, and it is renewable. This is a 1-year renewable for an additional 2. The renewals will come before you as they happen. And so staff recommends approval for this item.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 12, consideration and action to approve work order number 1 for C. Spence Group in the amount of $175,000.
Ramiro, are you presenting on this as well?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. This is Felipe Romero, Director of Communications and Marketing. This is the work order number 1 to approve targeted projects. Targeted project number 1 is the creation of the Brownsville Sports Park Toolkit that's going to leverage us to sell the Brownsville Sports Park as the biggest outdoor music venue in the Rio Grande Valley with collaboration with BCIC. Targeted project number 2 is the creation of the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau Tour Guide, which is our marketing strategy to sell Brownsville, the city of Brownsville on the world stage. And then targeted project number 3, which would be the activation of Brownsville Interactive at South by Southwest at Austin, Texas, 2021, to combine all of our organizational efforts and showcase Brownsville, which would eventually lead to more opportunities to sell Brownsville on a big.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm just worried that South by Southwest might be canceled.
This is for.
It is. I'm sure it's going to be for a reason.
That's what I'm saying. 2021, I'm worried. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve, but they better amend it if it's canceled.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
May I make a comment? I'm having difficulty hearing everyone. The voices are really low. The volume is very low. Is there something that can get fixed?
We can. I'm not having any issues with volume other than Commissioner Neese. Commissioner Galansky might be whatever you're using.
Okay. Because I could hear everyone well before, but now I can't. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Next, we have action item number 13, consideration and action authorizing the city manager to execute the fleet management and maintenance with First Transit, Inc. for an additional 2 years, exercising the first renewal option.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Roxana Moreno, and I am the Internal Service Director. I'm here representing the agenda item for the renewal of the contract with First Transit. First Transit services our fleet of 47 vehicles, which is combined with the transit and paratransit buses, which are Those are 38 of those, and 9 passenger vans, administrative and maintenance vehicles. The term of this contract is 3 years, which commenced on May 1st of 2017 and has ended on April 30th, 2020. This contract may be renewed and expanded and extended and is by mutual agreement. Therefore, I'm recommending that this contract be extended for one-time renewal, which is a 2-year term, keeping the contract amount the same at $1,431,579, with no increase in year 1 and possibly year 2. Any questions in regards to this agenda item?
The 2-year renewal, is that still pursuant to the terms of the original contract?
Correct.
Okay.
So this leaves everything in place. This was the provider that we had before, right? Is this the one that's on Jaime Zapata?
It's on Kalunga.
Oh, yes.
It's for the bus.
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, barely, but it's still kind of spotty, Commissioner.
I'm not sure what's going on here, but okay. So, was there a bid involved with this contract? I may have missed that.
I'm sorry, but I can't understand what you're saying.
He's asking if there was a bid involved with this.
Was there a what, sir? I'm sorry.
A bid?
No updates.
This is an existing contract. It's just a term extension.
Okay, so extension.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I made the motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tetro. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to go to executive session?
I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
May I read the items, please?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, executive session, item A, attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.0712 Texas Government Code to receive legal advice regarding the city's rights, duties, privileges, and obligations in connection with all economic development projects and initiatives presently undertaken or under consideration by the city's administrative team. Executive session B, consultation with attorney to receive confidential legal advice pursuant to section 551.0712 of the Texas Government Code in connection with the city's rights, duties, privileges, and obligations related to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board under the City of Brownsville Charter Articles 1, 2, 5, and 6, in which the duty of the attorney of the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter. Executive session, letter C, attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 Texas Government Code to provide legal advice in connection with the proposed revision of the city's code of ordinances on the subject of solid waste, Chapter 82 Brownsville Code, Utilities, Chapter 102, Articles 6 and 9 Brownsville Code, Appendix A, franchises and related legal issues.
Griselda, please note that I will not be participating in executive session item C because I have a conflict of interest and I will not be on the call during that time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Excuse me, I don't see an item C. I only see A and B in my version.
I've got an item C, Renee.
Okay.
All right, so we did have a motion to go to executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll now be in executive session. Thank you.
So do we?
Well, we're back from executive session. Do y'all want to make a motion to reconvene the meeting?
I don't think we need, do we need a motion to reconvene?
You don't actually.
No. Yeah,
we can always do it.
Yeah. Well, we're back from executive session, so let's go.
So we need a motion on A, right? Did you
Yes,
catch that?
it's now
I'll play it again.
8:17, and I'll go ahead and read the agenda item.
Me
It's
and my
consider for letter A,
boyfriend, she said.
consideration and
The
appropriate
queen
action, if
betrayed
any,
the
to
Sims.
authorize and
Nay,
direct the city
she
manager
outright
to
brought them
conduct an
outside and
audit
publicly
of
executed
economic
them.
development
She
projects and
announced she
initiatives
had a boyfriend,
presently
and
under
this was
consideration
when the
to
peace
provide a
treaty
report
was
for those
signed, where
projects
both
that
sides said,
administration
you know
recommends
what,
should be
we don't have a
continued,
chance,
and
let's just
termination
move the
of
fuck on. So all this may have
any
ended the
projects that are no
majority of
longer
the
currently
weaponized
feasible or
simping.
viable
There
under
were
the
still
current
some
fiscal
remnants of
conditions.
soldiers on Twitter that didn't know the war was over.
Okay, so
Kinda like the
then
Japanese
I would like
pulled
to
out soldiers
authorize,
where they
move to authorize the city manager to do this audit and make
Current
final
fiscal
decisions
conditions.
regarding economic development in the area bounded by Elizabeth Street and Palm Boulevard and the Rio Grande River.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. This
We have
is
a
Mary
motion and a
Spicer.
second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Next, we have possible action on executive session letter B, consideration and appropriate action to authorize the city of Brownsville officials, agents, and personnel to obtain the records, reports, book of accounts, and other data of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board to conduct oversight of the agency to ensure its proper management and operation, and to conduct any inspections, audits, and investigations deemed necessary pursuant to City Charter Articles 1, 2, 5, and 6.
I will make
I
that
have
motion.
prepared a statement. Wait, I have prepared a statement that I would like to read into the record before any motions and votes are taken. So if I may proceed.
You want to do that during discussion, Commissioner?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, can we do that? Okay.
As long as it's discussion in the item, yes.
Is it discussion, Commissioner?
Yes,
It will be,
yes.
right? Okay, great. We'll do it that way. Okay, do you have any motions on this item?
Yes, I make a motion to approve that action.
We have a motion to approve the action in a second. Then discussion item, Commissioner Galansky?
So I've prepared this statement, and I'll be brief. One of the reasons that we have different city boards is to engage Brownsville citizens in local government. It is our responsibility to appoint people who we believe are competent and qualified to sit on each board, and that we trust will make good decisions for the city and our citizens. To that end, we should encourage board members to take an active role in executing their duties as board members, ensuring that they regularly attend meetings, stay informed about the issues their organization is dealing with, and that they explore all sides of each issue. In addition, I believe that the City Commission should respect a board's decision on matters that it has explored and decided after careful consideration. In other words, if the board has received ample information to make an informed decision, then I think we as a City Commission should respect and ratify the board's decision unless new information comes up or it becomes apparent that material information was disregarded. In this particular case, it has only been 2 months since the incident in question happened, and the PUB board has decided to wait until the FBI investigation is concluded. If this is an instance of phishing, then PUB has cybersecurity insurance that can cover most, if not all, of the damages that the company has incurred. Alternatively, if the incident is a result of an inside job, then I trust that the FBI will identify everyone involved in the crime and prosecute them accordingly. Meanwhile, PUB's internal auditor has done her own audit and given recommendations on what policies and procedures should be adopted to avoid the same situation happening again. Consequently, it is my opinion that having the City Commission initiate its own audit and/or investigation at this time is premature or duplicative. Additionally, Mayor Mendez sits on the PUB board and is a member of the PUB's audit committee. In deference to him, I would like to give him and his peers an opportunity to deal with the situation as they see best. There is no indication that PUB is being poorly managed or impropriety is prevalent, thereby necessitating an immediate intervention. Like I said earlier, if it turns out to be an instance of phishing, it is likely that PUB can recover most, if not all, of the damages through its cybersecurity policy. And if it turns out that the loss of money was an inside job, then I certainly do not want to compromise the FBI's investigation or assume that we can do better. To that extent, to the extent that the City Commission has questions about what has happened, I think it's appropriate for us to ask the mayor what he knows or have the CEO, John Brusiak, give an explanation to what he knows. But to go as far as initiate our own investigation or audit, to me, seems ill-advised at this point. And for that reason, I will vote nay.
Okay, Commissioner Galansky, thank you. We did have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
And council, I'm going to abstain from this, being that I am a PUB board member as well.
Mayor, do we have, with your abstention, do we still have a quorum?
I believe we do.
Can't see it.
It's Commissioner Cowan, Commissioner Gowan, Commissioner Neese, and Commissioner Tetro.
Okay. So in the vote, it's 1 abstention, 1 nay, and 4 ayes, correct? Yes,
Is
sir.
Commissioner Tetro on?
Commissioner Tetra is not in this meeting, sir.
Okay, well then I will, how's that going to work then, Renee? Because if I need to vote on this, I mean, it's just a formal request. If I need to vote on it, I will. But is my vote necessary for this?
I think it's necessary.
Okay, well then I'll go ahead and vote in favor.
Okay, so it will pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think that was the last item, or we may have one more item, correct?
No, those are the only action items under executive session, Mayor.
Okay.
Motion
Part of
to,
item C, but there's no action on that, so we have a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, Mayor. Good night, Commissioner.
It is now 8:24, end of meeting. Thank you.